This is the 41st video in the Flow Certified Professional Online Training Series. We're going through the Part B of Successful Transformation and Scaling. And so we talked a little bit more about what we need from the executives, the type of support we need from them. And in this video, we're actually going to dive into how we actually measure and communicate back to the executives what's actually happening so that they can actually start to get the trust and comfort that they need in order to believe that Agile is actually going to be something beneficial for them and their organization to pursue. So we have to do a much better job than we've been doing as Agilists in communicating back up the food chain. So the leadership takeaways for this one are reporting upstream. And I'm going to show you real-world examples for burn-up charts, team health checks, and how to pursue transformation excellence. In reporting upstream, we use burn charts. We use team health checks. That can be in the form of radars. That can be part of the AHA curve. That can be flow friction analysis. And we use all three of these in the retrospectives with the teams, and we also use them to communicate up to the executives. You should be using product roadmaps. We had an entire wall in two of the projects I just worked on last year where both teams had up on the wall the entire product roadmap for what they were trying to create for the next 6 to 12 months. PMOs, sometimes they have bi-weekly meetings. That's for a PMO that's active, that's probably correct cadence for them. And the PMO is then going to either be reporting monthly or quarterly back up the food chain. The executives don't need to see those materials every 2 weeks. And use Agile transformation groups or Agile transformation teams, whatever you want to call them. You need to have a group that reports directly to the C-suite of executives. That group needs to meet monthly with the executives, the senior executives, and then quarterly with the senior executives and the C-suite board if you need to. And it's the Agile transformation group that has the responsibility for the transformation. Here's what it looks like in the real world. Okay, the teams, they're going to have these every 2 weeks if you're using 2-week sprints or iterations. You're going to have the team, you're going to track them in the points that they're doing. And this is only for team use. It's only to help the teams do better. But the minute that we move over to the project level, and this is a 2-week day-by-day view. This is a sprint by sprint view. So this is iteration by iteration view. Iteration 1, iteration 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, and so on. It's there. In this picture, that after 5 or 6 successful sprints with the team, that we can start to gauge the velocity of the team and start to compare that to the backlog and start to make predictions about when the team is going to pass that line and actually deliver what it was that they have in their backlog. And then the program view is either a consolidation of the team efforts, or if you're using projects, then it would be as each project is completed in that program, then you would include that here. And then the portfolio view is just the aggregate view of all the projects completed. So you can see we had the green line for, I think that was 2011 or 2012. I can't read those numbers that well, but anyways, let's say 2012 portfolio total. So this was 2011's result. The red line is what we were shooting for in 2012. And about 7-8 months into the year, we were able to see that, yeah, we're going to hit exactly or a little bit above what we intended to deliver for the year. And so that was, we were shooting for around 100 projects. It was showing we're going to do a little bit above that. We came in at 98. So that's pretty accurate. Remember, as I said, on the average, will be right. And when you're aggregating the totals for 18, 20, 50 teams, the curves will start to look more like this at the portfolio level. And it will start to help the executives understand what is the velocity. Programs and projects can vary widely, and you can have wide variance. And so, but on the average, the variances aren't that wide. Okay, and the same for down at the sprint level. But for the executives, they should only be focused on the reporting that we do in the product and organization box. They can completely ignore what's in the team box. They don't even need to worry about that. The only reason you would dive into that is if you are having a team that's really struggling. But then you better have really good agile coaches and executive or enterprise agile coaches and consultants that can step in and help you dig through the smoke and the noise and find out what's really going on with that team. And so that's the only time that you would actually go in and use those. Otherwise, leave them alone. Let them improve and respect that separation. If an executive or a manager does not respect that separation, you will alienate the team and you will destroy what it is that we're trying to do. And if your leadership is truly interested in going to Agile and you do that, you're going to be pulled in front of your leadership to explain yourself. It's getting to the point where people aren't going to put up with that behavior anymore. And so it's a new set of behaviors that we all have to learn in order to be successful in doing this. Here's some additional, it's basically the same thing. I had drawn this one to help the teams know that, hey, at the individual level, this is what we're trying to help you achieve as autonomy, mastery, and purpose. At the sprint level, here's what the team is going to use, and we had a sprint board, and it was not for management. We just had this right up in the team space. So if a manager was nosing where they shouldn't go, I would just take them right over there and say, what does this say? And then they would go, oh yeah, that's right, training. Okay, good. Now, as we were doing the release of everything that was completed, here we had the product and org flipped. We would be able to show them, here's everything as it's completing. We were using a product roadmap, so we could literally take them over to the place where we had the product roadmap up on the wall, and it was for the program manager and the product owner, so that they could take people there and talk to them and say, here are the things that are happening roughly in these time frames. It can move, and it will move. It won't. What you see today won't match what's at the end. And we would be able to show the cross dependencies on that product owner / program manager board. We could show the cross dependencies with red thread. We literally taped it right up on the wall. And then we did the trend lines over sprint by sprint by sprint by sprint. So we used these three a lot. And so that helped the project and program view. And then for the portfolio teams, they were just going, you guys making progress? Great. And if there were any hiccups, we could always go back into any of the materials and pull any of the reports at any point in time to be able to answer any of the questions that might arise from further up in the food chain. So this is real world. This is what we use. This is a picture of what we had right up on the wall, helping them understand this is what we've got to do. And this was an example of day 1, day 2, day 3 of a sprint burn-up chart. This is a 2-week view. And as the team was going through one of the sprints, they realized, oh, we missed some items, so they added it. And in this one, they actually came in about day 9 and had delivered basically everything. And so they pulled a couple more items in. I'm flexible. I'll let them do XP. I'm not a Scrum purist where we lock the scope for the 2 weeks. If they get done early, if they want to pull it in, we let them pull it in and continue to work. Here's the project level, and again, it's sprint by sprint by sprint by sprint. Now, the previous one, this one, that's just for team use. Leave it alone. For this one, this is when we're going to actually report back up to the executive sprint by sprint by sprint and doing the aggregate product backlog. Sometimes you're not able to get the aggregate product backlog until much later, but whenever you can, it's really good to try to do that. But we all know that the product backlog grows too. So you could end up, if the product backlog is growing at the same rate that your sprints are being completed, and if those two lines are parallel, you're basically never going to finish. There has to be a point where those two lines intersect so that you can actually finish the project. Here's the program level, and so it's the number of projects completed. And this one, if I remember right, this team came in either right on the dot or just above for 2013. Here's another one for the portfolio view. You could see that even though the trend line was predicting above 100, they actually, at the end, they came in at 98. They hit the goal. And then by the third year, they were to 124 projects. And when you look at it from 2010, so over 4 years, or 3 years from when they had the 58 to 124, they more than doubled their velocity. And so, and this isn't an exception. We do this over and over and over. We can duplicate this with every one of your teams. This isn't unusual. I've got blog post case studies out there for the last 10, 15 years. In fact, I've got 13, 14 case studies in flow showing exactly what we see here on this chart. We routinely see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 900% increases. Problem is that the executives go, yeah, 900%, yeah, right, ha, 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 ha. But we know it's a fact. We had a CIO sit through this training, take it to heart, take it out of the book, go and do it with his teams. They got 300% in 90 days. So please, for all you doubting Thomases out there, guess what? This works. We've done this over and over again. We know how to measure it. We know how to report it. We know how to help you start to understand the trend lines so that you can use flash foresight as well as anticipatory vision to start to draw some really useful decisions out of this and being able to interpret what the future might look like. We use health radars, and I'm not going to go deep into this, but this one is actually a flow radar done with Agility Health. And we've got the flow triangles, the team, we've got the right people, the 4D model for projects, for programs, for portfolio, and the vision. Basically the flow formula, we can measure it and report on it. And we have it for team level, we have it for product level, we have it for the organization level. We can customize it. We've done customized versions of this for other companies, and so we can make this look many different ways, but the results are the same. And we use these radars in the retrospectives to help the teams get better. So we've just given you a brief taste of upstream reporting. We've given you real-world examples. These were from real-world cases for the burn-up charts, which ones that you can use, which ones you can't use. We talked just a little bit about the team health checks, and again, you do those on, at first, a monthly basis and then a quarterly basis. And what you're trying to do is see, is the team getting more healthy from an Agile perspective? And that all of that together helps you pursue transformation excellence. So, if you're not measuring your results this way, you need to begin to think about how you're going to measure results for your product development processes and for the products, services, and results that you're trying to deliver to your organization and to your customers.